Is your performance a little wooden? Well, what if I said I could bring more life to your singing voice, speaking voice, physicality, presence on stage, and increase your alertness with one simple technique? Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, the great opera composer Giuseppe Verdi once said, in theatre, the public will stand for anything except boredom. And that's where this tip comes in. Like many of the most effective techniques, this one's super simple, but it can take time to master. Fortunately, this is one you can apply to everyday life without looking stupid. So try it as often as possible. And what is this miraculous technique? It's bright, curious eyes. I know it sounds so simple, but it works because it does so much for both the actor and the audience. Now, some actors discover this technique intuitively, but we're going to break down both the physicality and the psychology behind it so we can apply it with intention. Whereas my 3 points of focus technique, if you saw that video, was very much about where you place your attention. This is very much about the energy behind it. Now, where the eyes go, attention follows, and vice versa. So there's a real mind-body thing going on here. Now, the physical part is pretty simple. It's muscularity. It's awareness of how the face moves, but also releasing any residual tension or any unintended expression. You know, resting bitch face is not always the best look. So we start by stretching the face, yawning, stretching the jaw, poking the tongue out to release the back of the throat, stretching the lips, flare the nostrils, stretch the cheeks, lifting the brow, widening the eyes, rolling the eyeballs, even massage the scalp. Now, when we come back to neutral, we should now be relaxed but energized and engaged, kind of like martial arts position for the face. And practice looking interested. I mean, this is what starts to make that connection between mind and body. It doesn't have to be smiley. Of course, you could smile with the eyes. And that's the bright part. That's what keeps the eyes alive. Because disinterest or low energy, even if it seems right for the character, can make us disappear on stage. But we'll come back with a solution for that. And just as a side note, I notice a generation of children whose faces don't move because they've grown up with mothers with Botox. And I'm not mum shaming here, but they've never learned to either interpret or reflect those expressions. So if that sounds like you, watch people whose faces move. Notice how squinting, flaring the eyes, raising the brows contribute to expression. Practice in a mirror if you need to. Because as an actor, the audience must be able to read your face, and so much of it is in the eyes. Now, in real life, most people don't always give too much away. They often conceal. But drama is distilled, and when we only have a couple of hours to tell a story, every moment counts. So keep away from neutrality. Just as it's the death of singing, it's also the enemy of drama. If you're a shy person, find it hard to make eye contact, challenge yourself to engage strangers in public. Just briefly, just long enough to say, I see you. And cats do this all the time. Walk into a room with a cat, make brief eye contact, a little upwards nod, and they'll probably do it back to you. Because in their language it says, I see you, but I'm not stalking. But if you try this exercise in public, don't use the words, I see you, but I'm not stalking. Because that's just, don't do that. But in the same way that we engage a stranger in eye contact, it's not enough to look in their general direction. We need to see them, take it in, and interact. And this is where the curious part comes in, the mental aspect of this mind-body connection. Now, in everyday life, most of us just glance or skim things, but that doesn't always read well on stage. So to really take something in and not just pretend, we want to broaden our peripheral vision. And I'll explain why shortly. So start by looking at something straight ahead. It's not a hard stare. And it's not that Dustin Hoffman, Tom Cruise double take squint. It's just gentle observation. And then create tunnel vision with your hands, just to focus on that one thing. And as you pull your hands apart, without moving the eyes, just notice everything else that comes into the field of view. And take your time with it. We want to make those things conscious as though seeing them for the very first time. And this is active curiosity. This is the twinkle in the eye. You know, to an audience, it looks like you're aware of everything going on around you, because you really are. You're taking it in because you're both attentive and engaged. So if ever you find yourself losing focus, just broaden that peripheral vision. But there are other benefits to bright, curious eyes, and one of them is how it energizes us as a performer, because it creates a biofeedback loop. Psychologists describe a phenomenon they call the facial feedback hypothesis, which simply means when you deliberately create an expression associated with a feeling, it can actually induce that feeling, for better or worse. So if the eyes or face lose energy, often the voice follows, gets a bit flatter, the body slumps, and even the mind can start to get hazy. On the other hand, bright, curious eyes enlivens everything. So even as a singer, it can help with vocal expression. But here's where it gets really interesting, if you'll geek out with me for just a minute. By simply expanding our visual awareness, we expand our conscious awareness to take in more of our subconscious self, or other than conscious self. So we're more alert, spontaneous, intuitive. So we're better at improvisation because we're picking up on more of those cues and the thoughts that occur to us. Our choreography, harmony, timing are more in sync because we're in the moment, we're really listening. During a long run of a show, it keeps us fresh because we're responding as though for the first time, and we don't have to reinvent the scene to do it. At auditions, when we're in the flow of things, we're focused rather than shut down by nervousness. If that isn't enough, this connection to our deeper self helps us learn lines faster and recall them more accurately. Isn't that worth practicing bright, curious eyes? So coming back to that question of what's right for our character, does that mean we just always have to be perky? No. Watch John Malkovich in Dangerous Liaisons, one of my favourite films of all time. His character is always stretching, lounging, with its languorous world weariness. But there's always something going on in his eyes because his character is playing a game. And to the audience, we're aware that there's something going on. So if we're playing a character who's disillusioned, disenfranchised, disconnected from the world, the obvious solution is simply glaze over and switch off. That cuts us off from the audience because it's passive. It can look like we've stopped caring as an actor, and through that feedback loop, it depletes our own energy. So always ask, how can my character be active in their disillusionment or whatever trait? And how can I convey that through the eyes? And see, this is the irony of the illusion of performance. What is true to life doesn't always translate onto stage. So sometimes we have to make different choices to communicate the idea. And these are the things that are not overt in the script that only you can decide. If your character is disinterested in other characters, let them look for an escape route, because it's active. Let them deflect or distract other characters by being obnoxious, flirtatious. Active. If your character is a psychopathic serial killer, rather than just being dead in the eyes, maybe they get a buzz out of imagining how the other character tastes. Dark, I know, but at least it's active. The important thing is, in the context of that character, in that scene, how can you make sense of bright, curious eyes? There's a story about Marilyn Monroe. Her friends used to say she could walk down the street without being recognised. Then she could just switch on Marilyn and suddenly everyone would notice. So it wasn't a hair thing or a makeup thing or a costume thing. I mean, it could have been her shoes. She used to wear uneven heels so her hips would sway. But it seemed to be a mental thing, a state of mind. Yes, body language counts for a lot, but so much of it is in the eyes. Watch any great performer, hero or villain, and it's all going on up here. I try to use this technique all the time in these videos, just to feel like I'm in the room talking with you. I hope that comes across. Except now you're going to notice whenever I fake out. Damn it! Giving up all my secrets. Curses! So next time you're singing, acting, auditioning, public speaking, in a meeting, talking with friends, try bright, curious eyes, even if you have to fake it at first. Open that peripheral vision, switch it on and off, and tell me how it goes. And tell me what you think of my first ever attempt at stop motion. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really do love you. Now get out there and be brilliant.